Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. You look at the SGI graph from the previous time frame, a quick overview of the geometry that we had and that I discussed in detail in the previous update. In case you missed it, you can look that up. A convergence happened right here on the 7th, followed by a high peak on the 9th. A critical convergence here from the 11th to the 13th at the time of the towards the time of the new moon, also a solar eclipse, and also a convergence starting here on the 14th. All these labels, they indicate tight convergence of planetary and lunar geometry. So let's have a look at the seismic activity that we had in this time frame. A cluster of stronger earthquakes following the peak on the 7th, as I indicated, 2 or 3 events possibly. This happened indeed on the 8th. Then on the 9th we had a critical convergence that was directly followed by a 7.4 in Colombia. And let's have a look at that seismic event. It follows on the large earthquakes, the major earthquake that we had previously in Venezuela, now one here in Colombia. We cannot anticipate this. We don't know exactly what the condition is along the faults here. It could have been Central America, it could have been further to the south towards Ecuador. There's no way to know whether or not a fault has reached the tipping point. This could have been a year later from the Venezuela earthquakes as well. Yes, it can be related. Column stress increases following the major earthquakes in Venezuela, but we don't know. It can be weeks, it can be months following the major earthquakes in Venezuela. And it happened here on the 10th, 7.4 damaging earthquake, sadly. Then we had the convergence from the 11th to the 13th. Peaking magnitude 6 cluster here on the 12th, 13th. Not major earthquakes right away with that convergence. It peaked magnitude 6 at the South Central Islands region. Strong earthquakes here also into the 13th. And then with the convergence starting on the 14th, also a lot going on there. That's where the larger seismic activity happened. You may want to look up the previous update where I said that the strongest seismic activity would likely occur in the second half. And indeed 7.7 Flores region, Indonesia, followed by 6.9 northern Sumatra, Indonesia, and also 6.1 in Vanuatu early on the 16th. Here is the major earthquake 7.7 in the Flores region, 35 kilometers deep, damaging earthquake. And it was followed by the 6.9 here, 180 kilometers deep. Very significant seismic activity in Indonesia. So we see 2 major earthquakes, 7.4, 7.7, 6.9 in this time frame. And this is why I said have an earthquake plan in the previous update, because based on long-time observations, we know that this geometry is critical, especially because Earth was lining up between Venus and Neptune. And I already warned for this early in the month, late July, that we are probably going to have bad seismic weather coming up. So this is based on long-time observational research. This is not cherry-picking planetary alignments. Not at all. And I will demonstrate this. If you look at another time frame where this is from the 11th to the 13th, you can see Earth aligned here between Venus and Neptune, and it's about to line up between Venus and Saturn. Critical geometry in this time frame. And if you look at similar geometry in that Earth was also between Venus and Neptune, that was in August 2021. A lot was happening here also with Mercury. These are the red lines, and the moon, that's green. 4 planetary conjunctions converging from the 9th to the 11th. A lot of lunar geometry, including symmetric 145 degrees with Uranus and with Saturn. And as you can see, from the 11th to the 14th, within 3 days, we had 5 major earthquakes. That's the most significant cluster of strong earthquakes, major earthquakes in recent years still. And even if you count the South Central Islands region as a single event, they were only minutes apart between the 7.5 and 8.1, you still end up with 4 major earthquakes in just over 3 days. This was a huge, unique convergence of planetary lunar geometry, and also, again, Earth between Venus and Neptune. It's not just Venus and Neptune. Last year we had a similar situation where let's go back here, where Earth was not between Venus and Saturn, Neptune on the other side, but with Mars. If we go back a year, Mars was on this side, Earth was between Mars, Saturn, Neptune, and that's when the 8.8 magnitude earthquake happened in Kamchatka. When Earth gets between planets, especially outer planets, you have to be on high alert. Okay, this was in 2021. To date, the most significant and powerful cluster of major earthquakes. Okay, so let's have a look at the next time frame from the 17th to the 26th. We are not out of the woods. We see high lunar peaks here on the 19th, 20th and also on the 24th. Arguably the 19th, 20th will be the most critical time. I cannot say that with certainty, but this is a significant convergence here. We have to go back actually to the 15th, 16th here a bit, because that's when the moon aligned with Venus and Neptune and Saturn in 3 conjunctions. So far we see some seismic response, some clustering here yesterday and today. 5.8 Kamchatka, 5.7 Mexico and also 5.6 Indonesia. And here we see the high lunar peaks at first quarter, the moon making 90 degrees with the sun. And we see the high lunar peak also here on 23rd, 24th. So let's have a look at the geometry again. Mercury, Sun, Venus lining up here. That's later today. Venus, Mercury, Saturn, 90 degrees, almost at the same time. It's the convergence that does the trick. And then we have significant geometry. We have symmetric geometry again, 135 degrees with Mars and with Neptune. On the 19th, that's why you see this high lunar peak. And we have additional critical lunar geometry on the 20th. The sequence, that's what counts, and that's why you see the 2 high lunar peaks. On the 20th, 45 degrees, Venus, Mercury, Uranus, followed by Earth, Moon, Venus, 45 degrees, Earth, Moon, Saturn. And this is because Earth is between Venus and Saturn. That's why we see semi-right angle geometry in a very short time here on the 20th, before Venus and Earth and Saturn align here in the afternoon of the 21st. And also we see the Moon lining up with Uranus. This is an opposition later on the 20th. Let's have a look at the solar system. Earth between Venus and Saturn, 45 degrees with Venus, 135 degrees with Saturn. That's the moon here. And the moon also makes a conjunction in opposition here with Uranus. Most notably, Earth at this, the moon at this position makes symmetric geometry, 135 degrees with Mars on one side, with Neptune on the other side. And that can easily lead to a high 6 to 7 magnitude earthquake on itself. But we have a lot more going on here. We also see Mercury, Sun and Venus in an alignment that often leads to a borderline 6 magnitude earthquake. So as you can see, a lot is going on here from the 18th to the 21st. Planetary geometry and especially the lunar geometry converging here. Then we have Sun, Mercury, Jupiter coming up on the 22nd, followed by again, this is 90 degrees with Neptune and a notable opposition with the Moon and Mars. This is happening on the 23rd, followed by significant geometry on the 24th. Again, 90 degrees, this is a double 90 degrees, symmetric 90 degrees with Venus and Saturn on the 24th, followed by 45 degrees, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. This can also be significant here in this convergence. So let's have a look, 23rd, 24th. Earth a little bit to the left now, but still closely aligned between Venus and Saturn. Opposite 90 degrees, symmetric geometry. Also 90 degrees with Neptune. That's actually where it starts here, early on the 23rd. The moon moves about 13 degrees per day. So that's why you see these angular separations. But it is a notable sequence of 90 degrees geometry. And then the moon also makes an opposition here with Mars. Somewhat similar to the geometry preceding the 7.7 last week. Very significant geometry coming up. So this is what we're going to have in this time frame. And then on the 26th, also noteworthy, the moon in an opposition with Jupiter at the time that Venus, Mercury and Jupiter also align in the solar system. Here we can see that the moon opposition with Jupiter, and this is practically happening at the same time here on the 26th. Venus, Mercury and Jupiter also. And it's the convergence that counts. The sequence and the convergence of specific geometry. So we don't look just at Venus, Mercury, Jupiter and then disregarding the lunar opposition with Jupiter. From a geocentric perspective, you will note that the moon will be in opposition with Jupiter, but you will miss Venus, Mercury and Jupiter in alignment at the same time. And that is highly significant. So there could be increased seismic activity following this geometry around the 27th. This is day before the full moon on the 28th, in the morning of the 28th. I will discuss that in the next update. It's a bit difficult to say what's going to happen here towards the end of this time frame. It is critical geometry, but it very much depends on what happens earlier in this time frame, around the 20th, 21st in particular. I'd say be on extra alert around the 21st. There could really be large seismic activity. The Earth does not produce major earthquakes all the time, but we do have the example from 2021. We can have 4 or 5 magnitude 7 earthquakes in just 3-4 days. That is an extreme. It doesn't happen very often, but it definitely depends on the positions of the planets and the moon. And this is a continuation of critical planetary lunar geometry, primarily because Earth is closely aligned between Venus and Saturn. So be on extra alert. Check out the latest updates on the website and also in our social media. Stay safe, everyone, and until next time.